something massive happened last night, and I think a lot of people missed it. While you were sleeping, the House of Representatives voted 215 to 208 to invoke the War Powers Act and direct the president to remove U.S. forces from hostiles with Iran within 30 days. That has never happened during this conflict. 3 times before, they've tried, but this time is different because last night it actually passed. And one of the major reasons why it actually passed is 4 Republicans essentially jumped ship to bipartisan with the Democrats to help move this into the right direction. They voted against their own party during war. And while their own president is commander in chief, let me show you what happened what it means and why you need to pay attention to exactly what's taking place. The House voted on H-Con Res 86, a concurrent resolution under the 1973 War Powers Resolution. What that means in plain English is that Congress told the president that you have 30 days to, with June 3rd, 2026, the withdrawal, to pull troops out of hostilities within Iran, or you're essentially violating the law. They voted 215 yes to 208 no. 7 votes. That's how close this was. And remember, like I stated, they've tried to do this before, and this is the 4th time. Essentially, and that's why this is important, because it actually passed. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So this is a concurrent resolution. That means it does not go to the president's desk for a signature. He cannot veto this. It's a Congress exercising its constitutional authority over war, because that's exactly what's taking place. In Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution states that Congress declares war, not the president. The War Powers Act of 1973 was written after Vietnam, specifically because presidents kept sending troops into combat without congressional approval. Now, here's what makes this like legitimately history. Davidson from Ohio, Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky. 4 Republicans voted yes on this resolution against their own party, against their own president during an act of war. Let me tell you who these are, because this actually matters. Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, he's a former FBI agent. He said, and I'm quoting directly, "You either follow the law or you change the law. You cannot violate the law." Representative Warren, let me jump back in, and a Representative Mark Barrett from Tennessee, who was a previous Army veteran. An Army veteran looked at this war and said, "I'm voting to bring our own people home." That tells you something when people are sitting in Congress going like, man, we can't keep doing this. So, and that's why this is bringing up so much attention and bringing some light to this. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether the vote was right or wrong, but what I am here to tell you is that it happened and what it means. Because regardless of where you stand politically, the fact that the members of the president's own party are publicly breaking ranks during a war, and that's where the big deal is there is some conflict behind doors. So the big question everybody's asking is, does this actually stop the war? Honestly, probably not. As we can see when it comes to the peace treaties that have been broken on several occasions. So with that being said, let me find my spot real quick. Okay, so honestly, does this stop anything? We don't know. And it's not immediate, and here are the reasons specifically as to why. The Senate has to pass their own version of it. And even though that this is a concurrent resolution and technically can't be vetoed, enforcement is the actual issue that we're dealing with at the moment. No president since 1973 has fully complied with the War Powers Act. Not one. Not a Democrat nor a Republican. Nixon ignored it, Reagan ignored it, Clinton ignored it, Bush ignored it, Obama ignored it, Trump ignored it in the first time. And now we're watching it to see if it gets ignored again. But here's what did change. The message that was sent publicly on the record was 215 of Congress, including members of their own party, said that the war does not have authorization. That's a big deal. That matters because it's now documented. It is on record that if something goes wrong or this escalates to a further level, that our own congressional leadership stepped up and was like, we need to be done with this. And we need to get troops home. So with that being said, Congress can point this to vote and they basically can give that, like I told you, situation. And I know it's a little bit of a like a he said, she said kind of situation, but documented proof helps keep building. So Saturday is the 100th day of this conflict. 100 days we've spent an estimated 29 billion. We've lost 13 service members that we've documented. That's been basically publicly record. And our bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar and Iraq have taken drone and missile strikes. So when Congress votes to invoke the War Powers Act, it's not just the political theater that we're dealing with. There are real people deployed right now, real families waiting, real veterans watching this, wondering if our brothers and sisters are actually going to come home. That's the partisanship, and that's human. And that's where we're at right now is we are in an unnecessary conflict, and we need, from a perspective of just the middle ground, we are losing unnecessary resources. We're spending an insane amount of money, and it's not benefiting anybody, especially the American people, nor is it benefiting anybody over in the Middle East. So what happens next? 3 things to watch for. 1, does the Senate take this up? Senator Tim Kaine has been pushing a similar resolution. If it passes both chambers, it becomes a constitutional showdown. 2, does the president comply or does he ignore it? History says ignore, but with members of his own party voting against him, the political pressure on this situation is different. 3, and this one is the one I'm tracking very closely. I've recently spoke about HR 8800, the National Defense Authorization Act for 2027. The bill acknowledges that the power grid can't sustain both AI data and military operations simultaneously. That tells you how stretched we currently are. I'm going to keep covering this, and if you want more information, please stay informed and without the spin. So what I'm basically showing you is I'm giving you a very, here are the receipt situation. This is what's going on. There's no sides here. This is right down the middle, because the biggest thing I widely care about is well, first and foremost, God, family, and country. And in this particular case, what we're talking about our country is the waste of unnecessary resources and people over there being put in situations and positions that they don't need to be in because it doesn't benefit the American people. And that's where I'm at. And as a veteran and watching our soon-to-be brothers and sisters over there fighting right now, it's just, it's unnecessary conflict. All right. So that's where we're at. Congress voted, the message was sent. Whether it changes anything is really up to the people that we elected. And that's what it's really going to come down to, is how much of a push are they actually going to give? Are they, because their history shows us that no president has complied with this. With that being said, and like I stated before, with members of his own party speaking up against this, it'd be an interesting situation to keep an eye on and focus on, because honestly, we don't know specifically what's going to take place. But if you're a veteran watching this, trust me, I see you. And if you're active duty watching this, please, please, please stay safe. And if there's any more content or anything specifically you want me to cover, as a veteran, and so you guys are aware, I did 20 years of service in the Navy as a helicopter crewman, soft support, rescue swimmer. I retired back in 20. Through that journey, I've put together a lot of information, a lot of data that I have now taken the position to advocate for veterans and to step up to the platform and not only just advocate for veterans, realizing the system that I worked for over 20 years is then showing you the truth behind the curtain in that respect. Is the news not necessarily from one side or the other, but a very upfront, raw, and truthful version of it. And that's what this channel is about, is truly bringing all the light for the veterans in our community, that, the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that we put into, whether you served for 4 years or 30 years, the home you came home to isn't what I believe is the home you fought for. And I truly believe it's important and imperative that we educate ourselves, we understand the system that is going on, and that way we can collectively come together with a collective voice and implement and demand change. And that comes through us first. So if you stayed this long, you have no idea how much I appreciate you. Like I stated before, like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I will catch you at the next one.